Okay, welcome to video number 2 where we'll discuss horizontal structure. Beginning with foundations, depending on the region, foundation types may vary. The soil, presence of groundwater, and depth of frost levels determine how deep a foundation should go. Some homes may have full-story basements, some may have crawl space, and others may be slab on grade. Now, basement foundations provide the benefit of more interior space, but are needed in cold climates with deep frost levels. That's because if you can imagine what happens to water when it freezes, it expands. That same thing happens to the soil that contains water when it freezes. And as it expands, it'll push against the foundation. If the footing or the bottom of the foundation is not below that frost line, it can actually push a structure out of the ground. These deep foundations, though, are not practical in areas that have hard soil where it's difficult to dig or are prone to flooding. Crawl spaces or pier and beam foundations are used in places with a high water table or areas that may be prone to flooding. They both elevate the first floor of the space off the ground and provide a moisture barrier. So here you can see just a small space that literally is only tall enough to crawl through, and so that way the main floor of the house is above the ground. If there's any flooding or any issues in terms of water rising, it won't affect the interior space here. And then they also provide this concrete footing at the base of the foundation that will secure the foundation in the ground. Now, here's a image of a crawl space that looks like it's being renovated here. So typically this will be kind of covered up so you can't actually crawl underneath the house. And maybe there'll be one access point. This is the beginning of a pier and beam foundation, which is real similar to the crawl space. And these are very common in coastal areas that have common floodwaters. So usually they're going to be made from concrete, treated wood, brick, or stone that will then support a beam, which then supports the load of the structure. Concrete slab on grade or monolithic foundations are the most economic type of foundation. This is when the structure sits directly on the earth. So here you can see there's some sand and some gravel, and the concrete is literally poured on top of the ground. This happens in places like AZ where the ground is really hard and there's no frost line. So you don't need to dig the foundation deep into the ground to keep it stationary. And the ground is too hard to really dig into. It costs a lot of money. Basements in AZ can cost as much as an entire house. And typically, rebar will be placed inside or underneath the poured concrete to prevent cracking and shifting of the foundation. Here you can see a concrete slab being poured, and these pipes are actually to pull heated water through, so you can heat the floor. This is a really sustainable way of actually heating your interior. And then here's a foundation that's ready to be poured with the concrete or the metal rebar. At the base of most foundations are footings installed to spread the load and anchor the structure to the ground. These are typically made from poured concrete, so they carve a channel in the dirt and then pour in the concrete to make the footing. And then the foundation wall is typically made of 8 by 16 inch CMU blocks. Floor systems will fall into 2 categories, either beams or joists topped with sheathing or a slab of reinforced concrete. Precast planks of concrete are poured and cured off-site and then transferred to the site, preventing the need to do any on-site framework. Poured in place concrete slab flooring are reinforced typically with steel rebar, as you've seen, and then poured in place and allowed to set. Now, sometimes floors will be covered with carpeting or tile or wood planks or things like that, or other times they're actually etched and stained, and the slab itself is what we use on the interior. Wood floor systems are comprised of wood joists or parallel beams that rest on a larger beam or load-bearing wall, and then a subfloor made from plywood or steel is laid over the top and secured, nailed in place. This type of flooring is more flexible and provides a space to put insulation, ductwork, wires, pipes, etc. But this type of flooring will require fireproofing because it's more flammable than concrete. Now here you can see a wood plank and beam flooring that's been used to support an upstairs floor. This is literally the flooring material, and it rests on these really heavy duty planks. This is typical in older construction, but it can be used in a more rustic interior as long as good quality wood and craftsmanship is used. Steel frame buildings usually use steel decking or concrete floors. Many flooring systems will combine concrete and metal. Here you can see the metal or the steel decking with concrete poured over the top of it. These are steel joists resting on steel beams that are ready for some sort of likely steel decking and then concrete on top. Here's another example of steel flooring systems. These are steel beams that are supporting the steel decking, and here you can see a real life example. These steel beams are called open web joists, and here you can see a nice drawing, and then here's a real life example. These are very structurally sound because they have these diagonal and vertical braces inside, but they're lightweight because they also have the open airiness. So these are really popular in floor systems where weight is going to be an issue. Now, roof systems must be strong enough to span the entire width of the space, support its own weight, and the weight of any equipment, dynamic loads, and precipitation like rain or snow. Trusses, as you see here in this image, come in a variety of shapes and sizes, but basically use the stability of a triangle to spread and support a load. Here's an example of a truss in real life, and it's basically these timber members that are secured together and form the shape of the roof. Now, there are a few different types of ceilings. Mainly in gypsum wallboard ceilings, they're going to be either flat or cathedral or vaulted. So this is a cathedral or vaulted ceiling here. And then here's a flat ceiling, but some soffits are added, so we have varying heights. Suspended ceilings are common in commercial interiors and consist of this metal grid here that are placed some distance between the floor above so it can fit in all of the HVAC systems that you see here, sprinkler heads and piping, light fixtures, and so forth. And then these acoustical tiles are placed inside the grid. Standard tile size for acoustical tile is 2 feet by 2 feet or 2 feet by 4 feet. Here you can see some typical roof size or shapes. Flat roofs here, as you see, are typically constructed from reinforced concrete, flat timber, or steel truss systems, and can offer extra living space to put a patio or garden or something on top, but they must employ some sort of slope for water to drain from the surface. So a pitched roof will have at least 2 sloping surfaces, and a gable roof is when the sloping surfaces are sloping in the opposite direction and kind of meet in the middle. A shed roof only has 1 slope. Then gambrel roofs look sort of like a barn. They have these slightly pitched tops and then 2 more dramatically pitched sides. The hip roof will have pitched sides on all the way around the structure. A butterfly roof is essentially an inverted gable roof. And the mansard roof comes from the French and sort of the roof slopes down the front part of the house. Some flat roofs may employ a parapet or raised portion of the exterior facade to cover the roof material, as you can see here. It comes up, and then that way you can't see what's going on back here. This is an example here of sort of a more decorative parapet. Concrete roofs come in many shapes, including domes and shell shapes. And in areas where heat gain is an issue, lighter color roofs and even concrete roofs are a good choice. Here's an example of a suspended concrete roof. Now, asphalt tile is the most popular roof material. It is a petroleum-based product, however, so there are more sustainable options. These include cement board shingle, sustainable wood products, recycled metal products, and recycled rubber shingles, as you can see here. All right, so that's it for the horizontal structure. Move on to the next video and learn about how to move vertically through a building.